What's down, people, and welcome back to another episode of Ghetto Gospel. So where we left off at. Last week, we talked about how the Bible ain't a storybook, so sometimes you're gonna get boring history just like when you was in high school. We also talked about how this stuff matters because it'll help you to understand who the players is and where they came from later on in the story. The last thing we talked about was how knowing the history will help you make the connection between what happened back in the day and what's happening right now. And now we caught up. So this chapter gonna kind of get us back to the way we normally flow. And it start off talking about how Jacob was living back in the spot where his pops used to stay at. Then it throw you a curve and say this the family records of Jacob, which is the same thing it said last chapter before it gave us that long, boring list of names of Esau's kids. Thank God it don't follow that pattern. Instead, the next thing it says is that Rachel and Jacob's son Joseph was 17, and he was taking care of the flocks with the sons that Jacob had with Bilhah and Zilpah. Those was his side wives. And it say that Joseph ratted on his brothers to his pops like, you know them boys messing up, right? And then it paused to tell you that Jacob loved Joseph more than his other brothers because he had him when he was old, which ain't he learned nothing from his mama and daddy having favorites. Anyway, it also said that his pops made him this fly robe, and his brothers hated him because they could see that they pops loved Joseph more than he loved them. So much so that they couldn't even much talk to Joseph without getting spicy with him. So the next verse say that Joseph had this crazy dream and told his fam about it like, y'all check this out. I had this dream that we was tying up wheat in the field, and all of a sudden my bundle stood up and all y'all's bundles bowed down to mine. So his brothers was full of that drove talking about, what you trying to say? You gonna reign over us or something? You think you gonna rule us? And they couldn't stand that boy even more. Now, I mean, it wasn't nothing but a dream, right? And I mean, how they knew that's what the dream meant? It's a couple of folks out there with theories about that. I'll put a link to one of them down there. But I guess Joseph ain't learned his lesson the first time. So when he had another dream, he ran up on his pops and his brothers like, check this out, y'all. I had another dream. And in this one, the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars was bowing down to me. And then his pops was like, boy, what kind of dream you having? What, you trying to say me and your mama and all your brothers gonna bow down to you? Which is crazy, because he ain't say nothing about the first dream. And then they say his brothers was even more droll, but his pops was like, So the next verse say his brothers went out to the field to take care of the flocks. And his pops was like, look here, I want you to go check up on your brothers. Which tell us that his pops was probably the one that sent them to check up on him last time. And chances are, whatever he came back and told them was what got his brothers in trouble. And I'm gonna stop right here because there's some stuff to recognize. We know that Joseph was the favorite son. And not just because his pops gave him this fly robe. It say that his brothers went to work with the flocks in the field. And his pops sent them to check up on him. That boy was 17 years old. He was old enough to work out in the field with his brothers. Instead, his pops not only kept him out of the field and kept him laced, but he used that boy like his own little personal snitch. And next week, Joseph gonna learn that snitches get stitches. So that's it for this week. If you don't know Jesus, but you're trying to get to know him, go and click that first link in the description down there. I'll see y'all next week. And as always, peace, and I hope y'all people straight.